Here, let me zoom in on the... No, it's not going to be a waifu tier list, unfortunately. Maybe we'll do that another time. This is going to be an actual tier list of like how they actually are in battle. These are just their battle portraits from the answer. We're not going to talk about the MC, but if we were going to talk about the MC, they'd obviously be S tier. We're more looking at the other party members. This is just the order I dragged them in, but we can go in order of like when they show up. So first up, we have Yukari. She's weak to electricity and blocks wind attacks when she gets her new persona. She has the highest base magics and SP stat out of any of your party members. Her wind spells are pretty good. She has the best healing skills. She uses bows, which is a pretty good like weapon type, because even if you miss, you have no chance of actually like getting like actually stumbling, and the damage on them is actually pretty good as like a weapon type. She can be the highest damage dealer if you give her equipment that gives her like boost and amp skills. So she's pretty good for that. The problems though with Yukari is that due to her high magic and SP, the rest of her stats absolutely suck. Like she's very slow and very squishy. Like she has a low endurance stat, her agility is low, so she misses a lot with the bow. And making her the best damage dealer requires specific equipment and hampers her ability to actually be a dedicated healer. Yukari is B tier. I'm gonna say actually A tier, because like she can be the best damage dealer, but like I said, the problem is you need specific gear for it. But she's definitely your best healer. She's definitely the best dedicated healer in the party. And her high magic stat and SP stat is really useful, even like early on. And plus she's like the first party member you get, and you can take her all the way through the rest of the game and without her slowing down at all. In fact, you do have to take her into like that lover's boss fight or whatever. Next up is Junpei. He's weak to wind and blocks fire attacks. He has the highest physical damage besides Shinjiro out of the party members you have in the journey. Like if he's in the party, your all-out attacks are gonna hit pretty hard, which is nice. He gets fire magic and high counter. And high counter, by the way, is a 50% chance to counter any physical attacks. Counter skills in Persona 3, for whatever reason, are great. Like they're just very, very good. He also gets the unique skill Spring of Life once he awakens to his second persona, which is a 8% chance, or sorry, not 8% chance, 8% of his HP gets recovered every single turn, which is pretty good. Like it gives him a lot of survivability, and it's a pretty cool like unique ability when not, I think he's like one of the only party members that gets like a unique ability, if I'm remembering right. Yeah, I'm rating these specifically around Persona 3 FES. There are some differences with like even just like talking about like the answer or like portable. The problem with Junpei is fire is only for weakness coverage, and also physical skills in Persona 3 like they're kind of and like he doesn't get the strongest physical skills. I find like he kind of drops off after a little bit. It's hard to like bring him along because like the fire is only for coverage, and you can have a fire persona. Like the first like ultimate persona you get in Persona 3 is Cert at like level 50, which is fairly far into the game, but it's not crazy far into the game. So overall, I think he's B tier. Like he's pretty good at the start. He's useful. The Spring of Life, like you can use him later into the game, especially like once he gets his second awakening. I think he's good in the beginning when you first get him. He's good. He's kind of good towards the end when he gets Spring of Life, but in the middle there, he's not particularly useful, like in the mid game. And also because you have to use people in your party to actually level them up, it makes it a little hard. Like you kind of have to commit to a few different party members. You can't like level them up unless you want to take the time to do that. Plus you have other party members who can use fire skills too. The next person we actually get access to is Akihiko, who blocks electrical attacks and is weak to ice. So he learns electrical magic, which can stun enemies for easy knockdowns with any physical attack. If you didn't know, if an enemy is electrified or stunned or whatever, if you hit them with a physical attack, it'll be an instant like crit and they get knocked down. He's pretty good both like offensively with both physical and magical skills. He gets boosts for his magical skills, and he has a pretty decent like physical strength as well, especially since he gets Fist Master like later on, which doubles the damage his normal attacks does, which is pretty good. Like that's pretty good. And his weapon type is one of my favorites too. He also gets debuffing skills, which is really useful for bosses and stuff. And he's actually available fairly early on. He does get some healing. It's not enough to be a dedicated healer, but it's enough to be an off healer. Like if you want some off healing to supplement your healer or whatever, or if they go down or whatever. His main weaknesses are his low HP and SP pools. This gets fixed obviously when you get to level 99. Everybody's HP and SP maxes out, but that you're not going to get there for like 90% of the game. So it is kind of an issue that his like HP and SP is kind of low, and he's a little squishy. Like he's not super defensively great, and if he does miss, he has a high chance to actually stumble. But like given, like I always bring him along just for his debuffing skills, and the fact that he's good offensively and he has good debuffing skills is nice. I mean, you can say like because he's always debuffing, it's hard for him to ever do anything else offensively, but I don't know. I find him to be pretty easy S tier, I think, because just for the debuffing skills, if nothing else, because you'll be using that like throughout the entire game. You'll want that. Mitsuru is weak to fire and blocks ice. She learns ice magic, which can freeze for easy crits as well. She has the highest magic damage unless Yukari has like the optimal equipment, and she has a high SP as well, which is really nice. She does get some healing skills as well. Again, same as Akihiko, she can be kind of an off healer to supplement healing from like Yukari or like Ken or whatever. She's very consistent. Like she's very consistent with her magic damage. You don't have to put anything extra on her for her to have like really good magic attacks and everything. She does get some debuff skills, which is like her main weakness is Marin Karen. This is where like being able to control party members really comes into it, because the AI like really likes to spam Marin Karen, and that's because the game knows, like the AI knows that some bosses are susceptible to actually getting debuffed like Marin Karen and stuff, which if she gets it off is really nice on some bosses. But the AI will continually try and do it if you don't set it to like just always attacking or always healing. Here's the thing, I think she's very consistent. She's very, very consistent with her damage and everything, and she has the nice healing and everything. I find her to be A tier if you can control her. I don't think she's S tier. I think like, okay, magic damage. You know, you have the MC for that. Like, yeah, if you can control her, either with a party, like control party mod in FES, or if you're playing portable, she's an easy A tier, I think. But if you don't have control over her and she's constantly spamming Marin Karen, I think she drops down to B tier. And considering we're playing, considering FES and everything, I think she's gonna be B tier, just because of the Marin Karen like AI issue. I'm a little biased because I never play through FES without being able to control party members. So I always use the thing that lets me control party members, but it's hard to ignore. Like, it's a meme. It's kind of a meme, but it's also kind of not a meme how much she spams Marin Karen, right? The next person we get access to is Fuuka. Where is she? Where did Fuuka go? Oh, did I not put on Fuuka on here? Can I add her on? Oh, right, because these are just the battle portraits, and Fuuka is never a battle. Okay, I forgot to put her on here. I guess it doesn't really matter because she's not an active participant in battle. I'll just say, like, comparing her to other navigators. Oh, hold up, Cat wants in. I think compared to other, like, navigators, so she does normal navigator things, right? She tells you HP, weaknesses, all that kind of stuff. She does have the heal HP between floors, which is kind of nice. And she does have like that random effect skill, but it takes a few turns and it's like kind of never useful. She does give you an escape route, which is a free exit at any time when you're in Tartarus, which is kind of nice because you don't have to use an item then or anything. I think overall, if we were gonna rate her against like other navigators in the series, we'd have to put her, I think in B tier if we were rating Fuuka based on like other navigators, just because like she doesn't get any SP restoring stuff and she doesn't have any like other active battle skills or anything that really helps out the party besides the Oracle skill, which is just A, it's a random effect, and B, it takes multiple turns to charge up. Okay, next up, the one you've all been waiting for, Aigis. So Aigis blocks Pierce and is weak to electricity. She's the only party member that blocks a physical like type of damage, which is kind of nice. So she is immune to poison actually. It's not something that comes up a lot, but since she is a machine, she's immune to poison. There are probably other debuffs that she should technically be immune to as a robot, but you know, whatever. She does get all the buff skills, which is nice. She has great HP and strength. She uses guns, which is a weapon type that nobody besides her can use, even the MC. It's kind of like just a better version of bows, where they have like a better hit rate and like damage pretty much. I don't know, I just find them to be better than bows. She gets Dia Rahan towards the end for off healing, which is nice. She does get God's Hand, which is a severe physical move. And she does get Orgia mode, which is, it's a double-edged sword. It's useful for like random battles sometimes. If you want to finish off a random battle, it can be useful, but I wouldn't ever use it in a boss fight just because it leaves her open too much. There's a couple of problems with Aigis. One, she doesn't get any elemental magic, so, you know, she can't like hit weaknesses or whatever. That can be covered up by the MC. You can debate how much that's actually important, but when you're climbing through random battles, it's nice to have other party members be able to hit weaknesses, and she can't really do that too much. She also uses very specific gear, so like she uses guns and she has like her armor that's specific to her. At least with all the other weapons, the MC can also use them. And also with a lot of the other party members, their armor can be used by somebody else. But with her, it's only her that can use the guns and the armor. Also, before you get the everybody gets buffs, like the single target buffs are kind of not great. Debuffing only one person is fine because you're usually using it against bosses. But with buffs, you want it to buff the whole party. And also buffs are pretty annoying to use in Persona 3 FES because they don't stack. So if you buff everybody, you have to wait for the buff to wear off of everybody before you buff them again. You can't keep the buffs going. So let's say Aigis buffs everybody, and then in 3 turns you see, oh, the buff wore off on Aigis' turn. Okay, so the buff's gonna wear off on everybody. I should re-up it. So if you use the buffing skill again, Aigis will get buffed for the next 3 turns, but everybody else, since they technically have the buff until their turn comes around, it just won't do anything and it'll wear off on all of them, and then you'll have to rebuff again. It's very annoying, but that's more a gripe with Persona 3 FES and the way it handles buffs versus actually being Aigis' fault per se. Also, her physical skills kind of plateau in the middle. Like she gets some pretty good physical skills toward the end, but in the middle there, she kind of plateaus, right? Like she gets some decent stuff, plateaus for a bit, and then towards the end, she gets physical skills that are decent again. I think overall, she's an A tier. Definitely better than Yukari in my opinion. Physical skills are kind of hard to use in Persona 3 FES, but her buffing skills, her off healing, and Orgia mode, I'm gonna stick with A tier. This isn't a waifu tier list, it's a like combat tier list, so I think I'm gonna have to stick with A tier on that. This isn't, I always use her, like my final team comp is always these 3 in Persona 3 FES. It's always Akihiko, Aigis and Mitsuru is what I end up using every single time I play through Persona 3 FES now, just because I find that to be a good mixture of like a good party comp. That's why I personally always use. But like you'll notice that S, A, and B. So it's like, you know, technically speaking, I could probably swap out Mitsuru for Yukari and stuff. So, but that's just personal preference. I'm trying to rate these like objectively as much as I can. Okay, next up is Koromaru. And he's immune to fire and dark and weak to light. So he actually gets the block to 2 elements, and he's the only party member that does. And he gets it straight away since he doesn't have a second awakening. Being weak to light is kind of annoying, but you can cover that with an accessory. Same as everybody else's weakness. He has the highest agility of any of the other party members. His magic is pretty decent. He gets both the boost and the amp skills for fire damage. And he gets both fire and like dark skills. He also gets high counter in Persona 3 FES, which is again 50%. The problems with Koromaru is his magic is not actually his best stat. His strength is, but he doesn't get any strength. Like he doesn't get any physical skills. And also like, he doesn't get any like Mudo boost skills. So even if he has dark skills, you can't really use him for that. You'd be better off just using the MC with like either Alice or Daisojo. Well, not Daisojo because he's got light skills, but you know, the same thing. But the fact that he blocks 2 elements and he gets darkness skills, like at the time he does, is kind of nice because it's a bit earlier on. So you can have Mudo skills, but usually like when you first get Koromaru, if you're using him for that, it's pretty nice. Overall, I think I'm going to put him in B tier just because he's not capitalizing on his best skills and everything, because his strength is higher than his magic stat, but he's not using it or anything. Ken, oh boy. All right, let's talk about Ken then. He blocks light and is weak to dark, which, you know, again, blocks 1 instant kill skill, is weak to another. He gets light, electric, and healing magic, which is kind of nice. He uses spear, so he has pierce damage. He gets hum boost and has the highest luck stat, so his light skills actually kind of hit fairly often. He's got pretty good physical damage, especially with Spearmaster, since that doubles the damage his normal attacks do. And he gets electrical skills, which can paralyze a target. The problem is his unawakened persona only gets 5 skills before the awakening. He's one of the first to awaken his new persona, but it's still only 5 skills until you kind of like run out of skills to learn until like the plot comes along. He gets his healing skills much later than Yukari, so it's hard to use him as like a dedicated healer. And also his lightning skills are not as good as like say Akihiko's. They're only for coverage, which coverage can be done by the MC for the most part. And again, light skills, you could just be using Daisojo and have a much better chance of actually hitting. So the thing with Ken is he's a good all-arounder. Like he's fairly good at healing, he's fairly good at physical, he's fairly good with lightning skills, but he's not particularly good with anything. So he's an all-rounder. He's a, what is it, the saying? Jack of all trades. Yeah, he's a jack of all trades. He tries to be good at pretty much everything, but ends up being not as good in one specific thing as anybody else. So he kind of gets always left off on the sideline, and the fact that he comes in so late into the party means that it's hard to actually use him because you have to level him up and everything. I don't know. I find him to be kind of... I'm not going to put him in D tier or like F or anything because I don't think he's that bad. Like he can be good. Like if you give him equipment to be good at electrical skills, he'll be good at electrical skills or like healing skills or anything like that, or physical skills. I think mostly Spearmaster keeps him out of D tier, I think. If he didn't have Spearmaster, which doubles the damage his normal attacks do, I think he'd be down in D tier or something. But with it, I think it keeps him out of D tier. Next up is Shinjiro. He has no weaknesses, and he has a good chance of being in great condition. He gets great skills like Regenerate 2 and High Counter, which are good physical skills. He also gets a severe attack skill of God's Hand. Like, on paper, Shinjiro is actually an A or an S tier. He would be high A tier, I think, if he was in the party for more than like 3 weeks. Like, we can't, you know, it's hard to get around that fact. Shinjiro is great. I love his character. I wish he was in the party for longer. If he was, he'd definitely be like an A tier character. But like, given that he's not, it's hard to, we're gonna put him in D for dead, because he is, it's such a shame, because he would be such a great character. He's good, he is very good, but he only sticks around in the party for like 3 weeks, and it's like, so it's such a shame. It's such a shame. Since she's here, we'll also talk about Metis. This is a party member that's only available in the answer, which is like, you know, the epilogue that you can play in FES. I just figured we throw her in here so I don't have to do a whole, maybe I should do a separate tier list for the answer, because some people actually get buffed. Like Mitsuru gets an 8 stat buff in all of her stats in the answer for whatever reason, which makes her like, puts her probably up in A or S tier, honestly. For Metis, I think, so Metis is basically a better version of Shinjiro. Not only is like their stats are pretty comparable. Like, they're not 1-to-1, but they're like within a few points of each other towards the end there. She also, you know, uses the same weapon type. She has pretty similar skills and everything. She's another physical attacker, but she also gets like ice and wind skills as well for coverage, which is nice, especially in the answer, because the answer is something else, without going into too much detail. Honestly, you could probably do a whole separate tier list for the answer, but I think that with Orgia mode and everything, and being immune to poison because she's a machine again, I think Metis is actually in S tier. So not only does she get like everything that Shinjiro had, including God's Hand, but she also gets it in the answer, and she gets improved Orgia mode. And you need to use her for fights, so like if you're playing the answer, put her in your party. Just put her in your party. Just use her. You're not gonna be able to use her outside of this. She's pretty good. She's a fun party member to have and everything, so I think that looks pretty good. What do you guys think? I think that's pretty good. I find it hard. I keep thinking maybe I should put Aigis in like S tier, but I think just like her mid game is so meh that's hard to put her in A tier. I think this is fair. I think this is all pretty fair. I think this makes sense to me. Yeah, I think this looks good too. Say hi to your future self. If anybody wants to say hi on the YouTube video, now's your chance to do so. Well, that about does it for this video. Hope this was helpful. Leave any questions you still have, or tell me why I'm wrong down below. This one was a bit more rambly due to the live nature of it, so I won't overstay my welcome. I hope you guys have a good afternoon, a good evening, and a good... I do I hear boss music?
Hey! Heard you were talking shit.
Oh, snickerdoodles. Listen, guys, I'm really sorry about this. Honest, it was nothing persona. Oh.
You little... Take that.
I'm sorry. Ow.
Get back here, you son of a...